For 2020, I only did a top 5, mainly because I'd not seen enough at that point to justify a long list. It was a strange year for film distribution. Thankfully, I have watched enough great films in 2021 to return to a full top 10. There are some here and there I want to catch up on, which might knock the last few entries off this list when I get around to them. But right now, here are my personal top 10 movies of the year, starting with the big blockbuster of the moment. SpiderMan No Way Home. I really enjoyed the 2 previous Spider-Man movies directed by John Watts, but this one managed to click so many boxes for me in terms of delivering a really entertaining and well thought out superhero movie. Peter Parker's arc is well explored, and over the course of these 3 movies, I've really grown to care about this trio of Peter, Ned, and MJ, so it's wonderful hearing their banter together. The villains are excellently used here too, as No Way Home digs deeper into them and why they ended up on that path to committing bad deeds. All the multiverse elements are cleverly woven into the plot, and I thought the action delivered, as did the emotional parts. Most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies usually rank as just good to me, so it's something special when the occasional great one comes along. My number 9 pick is an animated film with plenty of strong world building and imagination. Raya and the Last Dragon. This movie had to introduce a new world to us, albeit one inspired by Southeast Asian culture, and so the filmmakers had the tricky task of presenting us with enough information to get invested in the conflict. And I thought they did a great job of delivering exposition and backstory, and it did not take me long to get into the story. I really liked the interplay between the various characters, especially Sisu the Dragon and Raya, and the way the film moved from location to location. The action set pieces are placed in the right spots, but most importantly, the characters are fleshed out, and even ones that seem to exist mostly for comic relief have more depth to them than initially presented. The animation is gorgeous too, and all the world building was definitely up my alley. It's an example of how the filmmakers at Disney Animation are trying all sorts of different stories and concepts nowadays, and impressively delivering on all of them. At number 8 is a documentary about one of the most beloved children's shows of all time, Street Gang: How We Got to Sesame Street. On the surface, this probably seems like a typical Talking Heads documentary about the making of Sesame Street. However, what I really loved about this movie was how it explored the entire process of writing television for children and the difficulties involved in making something fulfilling for a young demographic. The documentary manages to look at the importance of television over the last century in shaping children's minds and the influence it can hold, which provides context for why Sesame Street is so important. The amount of behind-the-scenes footage is amazing, especially from the years when Jim Henson was involved. Sesame Street creator Joan Gans Cooney gets plenty of time to talk about everything she wanted to bring to the show, and the film even acknowledges some of the underappreciated talent, like director and writer Jon Stone. If you're an admirer of Sesame Street or of Jim Henson, this documentary is absolutely a must-watch. My number 7 pick is a musical from one of the filmmaking masters, West Side Story. With his adaptation of this classic stage musical, Steven Spielberg did a lovely job of mounting this production. His respect for the material is evident in every frame, and he also trusted his collaborators to elevate the movie. The choreography is obviously a highlight, with Justin Peck coming up with some fantastic dance moves that fit the characters. David Newman's orchestrations of the classic songs deserve praise, and also show that Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim's compositions still deliver that punch almost 65 years after they were first heard on Broadway. The cast delivers, with Mike Faist and Rita Moreno serving as the standouts for me. Tony Kirshner's screenplay manages to honor the show while also doing some clever tweaks here and there, especially with the character of Anybody's. The themes of West Side Story continue to remain relevant, and while this is Spielberg's first musical, hopefully it's not his last. My number 6 has Paul Thomas Anderson transport us back to 1973, California. Licorice Pizza. If you're looking for a movie heavy on plot, this is not it. However, I really like that the film is more so a series of episodes as we watch the escapades of these youngsters, one an immature teenager and the other a 20-something-year-old photographer. If you thought the tone of Anson's last batch of films was too heavy, Licorice Pizza is lighter, and that works for the story he's telling. Cooper Hoffman and Elena Haim are great in the lead roles as they both attempt to navigate the world around them, and there is a decent number of laughs as Hoffman's Gary tries out various business ideas. The highlight of the film for me, though, is Bradley Cooper's brief role as the infamous movie producer John Peters. He's a hoot, and it kind of made me want to see a spin-off movie about Peters. As a hangout movie, Licorice Pizza worked for me, as we get whisked from one part of 70s California to the next. My number 5 pick involves Edgar Wright going headfirst into horror. Last Night in Soho. I found this movie to be a real inventive take on the time travel genre, using it to explore the dangers of nostalgia and thinking in earlier times automatically better than the present. What I love about Wright's movies is how he uses the full visual and oral palette to add to the story he's telling. The main character Ellie's arc in the beginning is already interesting, but the film becomes something truly special when she finds herself back in the 60s. We see how this journey affects her in the present day, and Wright highlights this with the way the visuals collide. I was totally invested in every twist and turn and how everything unfolded. You can certainly spot some of his influences in the film, but that only makes one appreciate the final result that much more. And number 4 is a sequel to beloved 80s comedies masquerading as a story about a family. Ghostbusters Afterlife. While this is part of a well-known franchise with plenty of nods to the earlier films, what I enjoyed the most about this movie were the main characters we got to spend time with. Jason Reitman has always been good at giving us fascinating characters dealing with different problems, and that continues here as we encounter single mother Callie and her children Phoebe and Trevor. These are all fleshed out and genuine protagonists, and Paul Rudd as a teacher provided neat support as well. The dialogue has plenty of snap, a huge credit to the writing skills of Reitman and Gil Kenan. When we do get the Ghostbusters elements, those are a lot of fun. The ghosts are brilliantly brought to life by the visual effects team, and where the story ultimately went actually made me emotional. This was a touching and funny experience that also served as a nice tribute from a son to his father. My number 3 choice is a film noir with some rather unethical personalities. Nightmare Alley. Through its 2.5-hour runtime, I was hooked from start to finish. It's a very stylish production, as to be expected from Guillermo del Toro. However, in a departure of him, all the magic displayed here is fake, as he explores the motives of a con artist taking advantage of other people's grief. Bradley Cooper especially manages to dig deep into Stanton Carlyle, and how his horrid habits start slowly creeping into the open. His scenes with Cate Blanchett crackle off the screen too. Whether it's the first half at the carnival or the second half where Stanton is doing his false readings, I was always intrigued where the story would go. I was brought into the dark 1940s world portrayed here. And number 2 is a sequel to one of my favorite movies of the last few years, A Quiet Place Part 2. I love the first Quiet Place, and even named it my top movie of 2018. I love the use of sound to create the tension and the relationship of the Abbott family at its center. John Krasinski brought back a lot of the elements I loved into the second film, along with some worthwhile new additions. The opening scene, showing the aliens landing on Earth, already starts the movie with a bang, and every subsequent sequence retains that level of excitement and suspense. The aliens remain a genuine threat, and as always, any loud noise made my heart race. Like some of the best horror movies, these movies work because you care about the characters and hope they can get through any ordeal they come across. Cillian Murphy, as a survivor who joins the family, especially did a good job of subverting expectations, and he has great scenes with Melissa Simmons. I'm definitely excited to see where the story goes in the third movie. And now my number 1 pick is a wonderful anime movie about a rather unique road trip. The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I recently raved about the film in my best anime movies of 2021 countdown, so I'll try not to repeat myself. There were just so many things I loved about the film. Its supportive, endless creativity is shown through Kate Mitchell's arc and her wild and delightful ideas, the humor delivered in several departments, from wacky moments to more dialogue-driven gags. The animation is on a whole the level as Mike Rianda combines a number of styles into one movie. The robot apocalypse storyline melded seamlessly with the road trip and father-daughter plot. When we get those quieter scenes and moments of reflection, those deliver as well. I watched it again recently, partly to see if it truly warranted the number 1 spot, and yep, this is the funniest, most creative, and most meaningful movie I watched this year. Now let me know in the comments what your favorite movies of 2021 are, and have a Happy New Year!